journey down to the border in Lukeville, Arizona, I saw things that at first glance didn't seem to be anything new in comparison to all the footage that I had seen in the news prior. Trash everywhere, stray dogs in the desert, and Border Patrol monitoring the area. It looked to be business as usual at the border after the biggest illegal border crossing to date occurred only a month prior.
The Tucson sector's Border Patrol chief posted this on X. Over 17,000 migrants were apprehended within the last week. This is the worst week we've ever seen at the border for Tucson.
Upon leaving Lukeville, I did an interview that caught my attention, that helped me tie in all of the footage that I would later acknowledge was completely out of the ordinary. Footage that, when deeply analyzed, could lead to a paper trail insinuating that our federal government has not only helped fund and facilitate illegal aliens crossing the border, but also building a case that the federal and state government had malicious intent, premeditated, months prior to the biggest illegal border crossing in one sitting in Arizona.
Looks like now it's business as usual, you know?
Yeah, well, the border's opened back up, and I think Hobbs called the state police back.
Oh, okay.
There were basically rent-a-cops sitting in the parking lot, like, I don't know, 8 of them, 8 cars, 12.
Yeah.
Sitting there doing nothing.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, the governor called the state police out because Biden wouldn't send the National Guard. In all reality, there was no need for it. There was plenty of border patrol handling it.
In all reality, there was no need for it. There was plenty of border patrol handling it. In all reality, there was no need for it. There was plenty of border patrol.
Today, we will sort out all of the facts and nothing else that will build our case that our U.S. government is in on the organized operation. First, we will start with the most obvious, yet oblivious piece of information that essentially landed in my lap that led me down this rabbit hole in the first place: the porta potty situation. When I drove roughly 7 miles into the desert, I met a dead end at the border wall that was only connected by the actual road Border Patrol drives on the edge of the border wall. At this dead end, I saw 6 porta potties and a huge dumpster. 5 porta potties were stacked in an L shape with a hand washing station, while one was completely separate off the beaten path. Why would there be 6 porta potties in the middle of the desert? This is when my research would take me further. Andrew Callahan, another YouTube journalist, went to the border only a few weeks before I did, only to discover when comparing our footage that I was standing in the same exact location that he was when they had transported illegal aliens to the area to transport them. This is when I got in touch with Jason Barker, one of my colleagues and investigative journalist, who pointed out the bizarre and abnormal location and the number of porta potties in the desert.
To get it started off, I'll say my train of thought here is this is one of two things. This is either, and like I said, we'll talk about the National Guard here in a little bit and executive orders and stuff that were put out by the state of Arizona. But this is either these porta potties and the hand washing station and the flag and this little area is either set up to service migrants coming over, put them up for a little while, or it's to service the National Guard that are out there to keep the migrants from coming over, or it's detainee operations, you know, to service migrants that they're going to send back over the border. That's the only 3 possibilities. Can I note something? I didn't tell you this when I watched your video before. That gray thing to the left side there and next to the trash can, you know what that is? That is a hand washing. It's a hand washing station. That's the exact same ones that we have as military inventory. So
really?
I didn't tell you that before, but yeah, that is a hand washing station, and there's a little foot pump. But I would venture to say 99% that's probably a National Guard piece of equipment.
Upon this observation made by Jason, I had a further look into the company who owned the porta potties, who came up as Standback Services, who was under a bigger LLC known as WAC LLC. When looking deeper into WAC LLC, it was noted that they received a federal contract for September 2nd, 2023, only 3 months prior to the illegal migrant crossing, for a lump sum of $383.7 thousand from Homeland Security. Another thing to notate is that federal contracts go into bidding wars, further pointing out how far in advance it would have to be pre-planned into receiving these services, only for the contract to expire in April with the potential of it being renewed.
Well, I'll tell you, the amount of porta potties is excessive. So when we used to go out and do field exercises, we were lucky to have 2, for like a couple hundred people. So it's almost like these things were put out there to service an influx of a lot of people. You know, and
here's the weird thing about it. I want to say it's not the porta potties that are weird. The weird part about this is the
location.
date. Well, it's the date and the amount of money. Frankly, that's a lot of money.
Oh, here's the argument I'm going to make. So, like I said, I'm wrestling in my mind because I've looked at all the data that I can get for that, specifically Lukeville. And, we were supposedly had some people out there to enforce the border. The support system looks like it was way beyond what it needed to be just to service a few people out there guarding the border. And if it was a way to bring people over and then process them, which is a possibility as well, why would it be out in the desert? Why is it out there in secret? All right, so this is the American side of Lukeville. It just services the gate.
Yes.
All of this space here, if our job was to go down there and say, all right, they're coming over, we're just going to detain them for a little while, get their information, give them a court date for their amnesty, whatever whatever they're trying to get. This is the place to do it. This is
That's
the road
right there. That's the road
Puerto
right
Blanco
there.
Drive is the road that the guy had mentioned on the other video, and somewhere in here, probably this area here, but it's not here. So it's recently been put up. I searched this for hours looking for an aerial shot, and I used both Google Maps and Google Earth. So this is something that has been put up recently. It was used for a short duration of time, and then they left it there. Porta potties, and the tents, which you'll get to, the tents. And those are military tents, by the way. Those are my favorite to put up because if you got a good team, they go up pretty easy.
Upon the second major location, I discovered a secret staging ground about a mile into the desert that was being monitored by Border Patrol. Upon arrival, I would see military tents with nobody inside of them, with a sign out front saying no motor vehicles, meaning that I couldn't physically drive into the location. The staging area was once again filled with these stand-back porta potties as well as the dumpsters previously seen, but also had huge UV lights, which made it known that they were also operating at night. With no military personnel around and only Border Patrol guarding the area, it gave an all but eerie appearance. Other than the previous footage I had seen from Andrew Callahan's video of them also keeping illegals in this military-style camp, I also firsthand saw the evidence of trash and insulated blankets on the ground, insinuating that there had been a lot of activity in the area prior to me being there. While none of this normally would be seen out of the ordinary, it was the locations alone that just didn't seem to add up. The road itself, known as Puerto Blanco Drive, is positioned right off Highway 85 in the Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument, right before the official Lukeville border crossing. Could this have been strategically positioned to take migrants from the official crossing and transport them via the Border Patrol Road into the middle of the desert where Puerto Blanco Drive meets the official Border Patrol Road, to stage and organize this illegal crossing where nobody could see, an effort to spit them back out on the state highway in buses through stealth, as if it never happened? These desert roads are not in plain's eye view without looking for them with purpose.
Okay, so when I did work with Border Patrol in Nogales, which was quite a bit different terrain, it was very mountainous. These roads were for observation points. And, I can actually go. I've actually got it marked out now that I think about it. This is Nogales. and I worked on stuff around here, and you can see the terrain here is really rough.
Yeah.
And if you look, let me find a spot here. You see these little clearings like this? These are on hilltops. So the purpose of these roads was to give access to Border Patrol, and they would park like right here. There's another one. So they can monitor the border. Here's another one. And yeah, they're all over the place. They're monitoring these valleys, you know, these washes, because that's where people like to come across. Here's another one right here. That was the point of these roads, was to actually watch the border. And they would kind of change it up randomly. You never knew where you're going to see a Border Patrol guy, but you would see them all over the place. Now, from what I watched in your video, there was nobody out there. It's not like those roads were really out there to really guard the border. They were there more for access to something else. Tell us where you did see Border Patrol, and I find that very telling.
Yeah, so so this is why you can see the road clearly, at least right now when I was there, was because there was 2 Border Patrol trucks parked in front of the opening to the dirt road. Like just sitting like right in front of the dirt road, just 2 Border Patrol agents like facing the highway, just sitting next to each other. Then when you drive about a half mile into there is when you see the other camp that, here, and I'll show you real quick, the other camp that's about a half mile into the desert.
Motor vehicles.
Yeah, right here. This is the camp, the same one in Andrew Callahan's video. This is the second location. And here's all the military tents. Over here, there's like 2 Border Patrol trucks parked, you know, in that camp. You can't really see it from this angle. And that was weird too. And this sign right here on the pole basically just says no motor vehicles allowed kind of thing. So that was the only 2 spots I saw Border Patrol, was upon entering the dirt road. Sorry, go ahead.
So instead of guarding the wall, they're guarding the entrance to the camp and the camp itself.
Yes.
And I'm telling you, that amount of dumpsters, I brought this up to you as well after I watched the video a couple times. That amount of dumpsters is more than enough to service. Like if we go out with a company of troops, 1, maybe 2 dumpsters were put out there for us to throw our MRE trash and stuff in. And that would service us for a couple weeks. Because I'm still wrestling with, is this a support operation to support the National Guard out there fortifying the wall, or is this a support operation to support migrants coming in so we can disperse them across the country?
Like as you see in the Andrew Callahan video, like this location had illegals in it, like no question. They're all over the video.
When that guy and his video, if you haven't watched it, for people listening, they actually told him he was only allowed to be in the parking lot and this and that and the other, and they actually had migrants there at the time stacked up against the wall out of the line of sight.
This is the crossing right here, the actual crossing. You can see they came through, but this is after it's already closed because of how many people came through, so that no civilians or anyone is legally crossing at this point. This is only illegals right here.
As I suspected, there they were. Hundreds of migrants, seemingly of African origin, lined up against the border fence, hidden from the cameras by Border Patrol. Then, to my left, I see Spanish-speaking migrants, who were already being processed.
So look at that. They literally section them out by their language that they speak, or what ethnicity.
And I want to make note of this. Earlier in this video, they told him the border was closed. And they had these people positioned where you couldn't see it from where you can drive up and look around. You couldn't see them. So there's obviously something going on in secret here. And
he walked up to the action. He actually walked over here at one point and got stopped by police and Border Patrol. And they said, and he's like, well, where can I film? And they said, parking lot. He's like, but I can't see anything. Too bad, basically, was the answer. So then that's when he found this other guy that told him about the stuff in the desert that I went to. And that's where we ended up matching the footage. So what happened is all these people, they were getting ready to transport them into the staging area in the middle of the desert where I was. So here he is in the parking lot. This dude's giving us his car. The drop
and told us that we were just 1 mile away from the largest secret migrant detention facility in Arizona, which is embedded inside of a national park called the Oregon Pipe Cactus National Monument.
Yep.
You turn on Palo Blanco Road, I believe.
There it is.
You go about a mile. It's conveniently hidden. Literally thousands of people. And people from all over the world.
Like, just look how they're positioned here, like organized fashion and stuff. And
they're not cuffed. They're not zip tied.
Right.
Out.
Right. So they all got moved here, from my understanding, from watching Andrew Callahan's videos. They were moved to these 2 locations with the porta potties and the dumpsters, very organized fashion, and they were all moved from the actual border crossing. A lot of them, like where they actually came through the crossing, they moved them out here in the middle of the desert to stage this so that that way they could transport them to wherever they wanted to go from there. My thought behind this is that way, more than likely, media coverage would not have been able to cover this because it was in secret. So you'd have to go find it, basically, like he did, finding this in the middle of the desert.
Let me point something else out. I was talking about, what the Nogales Border Patrol had, like their equipment-wise for vehicles. They don't require roads that are in this great a condition. Something like a bus, like a commercial tour bus or something, would need roads this good. But their trucks all have the Baja package and stuff. I mean, a 2-track through the desert is more than enough. I think all they did was move the operation to nighttime because you could tell. Another observation I made, I pay attention to detail, man. That's just what I do. All the floodlights, massive amount of floodlights.
Oh yeah, look at that. I didn't even notice that.
Oh yeah, if you get the shot of the camp, they have,
it's like, dude, what's up with that? Yeah,
like
that is
stadium
okay.
lighting.
That's like right there, just straight up. Like, why do you need that? Yeah.
But the roads are way too. Now, where I was working, we had to make the roads that way because it's so mountainous that we had to improve them to make them accessible. But in a flat desert like this, I've done lots and lots of driving through the desert. All you need to do is just grade it. You just, take a road grader and grade it. As long as you're not getting a lot of rain, you could drive on that stuff all day long. So I think this was to service buses. Lukeville is the perfect place to do it because, as you pointed out earlier, there's no town there.
Yeah.
There's no regular traffic unless you're going, maybe you're a truck driver or something shipping goods across the border that you need, that access point. But
I think bottom line on the Lukeville situation is this is not a reactionary response. I think it's way too organized to be reactionary. I think it's definitely premeditated. On top of this, Jason Barker found an executive order passed by Katie Hobbs, the Arizona governor, an effort to enforce against illegal immigration, but unfortunately the effort seems to be helping rather than enforcing against it, via the National Guard and the military camp in the middle of the desert. Upon Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs calling for $500 million in funding from the federal government to help at the border, the remnants of the help given in plain view would not have even come close to $500 million. What would taxpayer money to that scale be used for in this effort if not to build physical buildings to shelter and house illegal migrants? Could it have been used to swiftly stage all of these people to take them to the sanctuary cities of their choice under the nose of the taxpayers? As only a month later, upon my arrival, not a single illegal alien was to be found with my own eyes in Lukeville, Arizona.
All right, well, like I said, I'm wrestling on whether this is actually, what are those camps out there for? Is it to enforce the border? Is it to assist the people to come over? Is it a National Guard training exercise? There's a lot of different possibilities. The setup looks like it's made to service a lot more than a small unit. It's a massive amount of people. And so what I decided to do is look up any executive orders, and I went first to the whitehouse.gov, whatever website, to look at all of Biden's executive orders going back to the beginning of last year to see if anything was mobilized. Well, I didn't find anything on that, but I went to the Arizonas, and there were 2 executive orders done. This one here is combat human trafficking. That has kind of something to do with it, human trafficking over the border. But this is the latest one, ordering the Arizona National Guard to Arizona's southern border. And like I said, those tents are definitely military tents. Not saying that Border Patrol couldn't have access to them, but it looks like a military operation to me. As part of Operation Secure. So this here, looking at it, intent. What is the intent of those tents out there, right? No pun intended. But it was okay. The Department of Public Safety shall increase operations along the state's southern border to enforce the laws of this state. So they say they're out there in an enforcement, capacity. So basically enforcing the border, which isn't indicated by what they have out there. It looks like they're there to assist, not to enforce.
Right.
So,
totally.
Including responding to violations of such laws from or related to the Lukeville, specifically mentions Lukeville, port of entry closure, increased migrant crossings, or inadequate federal action. Let me go over the Operation Secure. So they talk about Operation Secure. Let's define that. Operation Secure will create a new border security office within the Department of Homeland Security. The office funded for the year with $2 million from ARPA. I'm not sure what ARPA is. I have to look at it. It's probably Arizona something. Will serve as a hub of coordination for border security operations to ensure local, state, and federal assets are being properly leveraged to keep Arizonans safe and maintain a secure, humane, and orderly border. So we can pull that down now. So basically, according to their executive orders and their Operation Secure, the intent of all this was to secure the border. But that's not what we're seeing. It kind of makes sense to me. You would put a couple camps along there because, you mobilize some National Guard. They're going to stay out there for a couple weeks, maybe rotate out with another unit and keep a constant presence there. But that's not what you witnessed, is it?
No, no, I didn't see anybody there, and that's what I was going to ask you, is because you were kind of talking about training exercises or whatever.
Yeah, FTX, field training exercise.
Yeah, you said they immediately pull down everything upon people not being around for it or whatever.
Yeah, that was very unsettling to me to see military equipment being just left there. You have to be accountable for all of your equipment. So when you go out in the field, and like I said, it's not beyond Border Patrol to have military equipment. I mean, we hand down military equipment to state agencies all the time, police and stuff like that, MRAPs.
Would it be normal for no military personnel to be there with the equipment and just give it to Border Patrol?
Not military. If it belonged to Border Patrol, they might elect to leave it there for future operations. But military, if it's a field training exercise, which I kind of given the benefit of the doubt, saying they're not out there nefariously trying to sneak people over in the dead of the night. So maybe they were out there for an exercise. Okay, well, when you leave, you pack up and you go home. You got to clean up the whole area. You do a police call. You pick up all the bottles, all the MRE wrappers. You pack up your tents. You throw it in your trucks and you go. So it should look like you were never there. I did work with the National Guard before I got out, and they pretty much operated the same way because they have limited budgets. You can't afford to just leave your equipment out there. There was several $1 million just for this alone. Let's see. Biden administration promptly reports the port of entry. The operation will mobilize up to $5 million for the National Guard. So they're going to get some federal funds. You declare this state of emergency, and there's a lot of money. Additionally, the governor billed the federal government for $512 million in reimbursement for ongoing border operations. So I don't see a $500 million being spent there. I see, my personal opinion, the state of Arizona has a problem. They declared a problem. But rather than spending that money to keep people out, they're spending some of that money to get them out of their state as quickly as possible. So we'll help you out. Yep. And make it someone else's problem. Yeah, there's two things: timing, and location. That's
Absolutely.
It's not random. A lot of people have a lot of incentives, Soros being one. Soros made his money by destabilizing small nations, speculating their currency, and he made a lot of money because he was good at what he did. He's good at speculation, and basically he could say, let's just say I was great at the stock market, and everybody believed in the shots that I called. So I say, hey, I go buy a bunch of Apple stock, and then I say, hey, Apple's going to go up. And then everybody else buys the stock, which artificially drives it up, and then I sell mine. So I just made a bunch of money off my speculation. That's kind of what Soros did with small nations' currencies, and he destabilized those nations by doing that. They've only gotten to the point now where they can actually destabilize the U.S. And our dollar is already freaking crashing.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah, this is a destabilization process.
100%.
Actually,
It
I
is.
think that stood up right there. And out of all of the border crossings in America, why Lukeville? There are so many other border towns with vast amounts of resources upon crossing, unlike Lukeville, which is desolate for almost 100 miles before arrival with nothing but desert, and portions of the desert not even having cell phone service. The only successful way you could cross would be with a plan and a helping hand on the other side, which leads me to believe that this response at the Lukeville border was not reactionary, but on the contrary premeditated and organized by the federal and state government to facilitate and aid the illegal crossing of over 17,000 aliens at the US-Mexico border. They would not have been able to survive in the harsh desert conditions and achieve such a successful illegal surge of the US-Arizona-Mexico border without help from a larger party. The border crisis is a very real issue that could potentially affect American politics permanently. Please do everything that you can to share this video and voice your opinion on this subject in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Please like the video and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I wish all of you a great rest of your day.